I'm not the kind of person that typically does holiday specials, but given my username, I feel like I'm sort of obligated to. Trying to come up with a Halloween video about tanks is quite difficult, especially since I feel getting into some of the grislier details about them would be a bit disrespectful. So, drawing from folklore, I'll be talking about some World War II tanks that were used long after their intended lifespan, or as the title says, tanks that refuse to die. And to actually tie it to Halloween, I'll be trying to assign these tanks mythological creatures based on their characteristics. I know it's kind of a stupid idea, but I figured I would do it anyway. First on the list is the Soviet Union's T-34 medium tank. When the T-34 was first introduced in 1940, it was both formidable and inadequate. It had good armor protection and firepower coupled with decent mobility, but was plagued with ergonomic issues, most notably the two-man turret which led to crew overload. The T-34 was continuously upgraded as World War II dragged on, receiving a 3-man turret and eventually an 85mm gun. Issues with quality control persisted, though they largely weren't addressed due to their relatively minor nature. What mattered the most was getting as many T-34s in the troops' hands as possible, and they definitely succeeded in doing that. The T-34 is one of the most produced tanks in history, only coming second to the T-54/T-55. Since the Soviet Union produced so many of them, they were happy to hand out T-34s like candy. Soviet satellite states that couldn't afford newer tanks were happy to keep them for a while. And when hard times come knocking, armies or political groups will take whatever they can get. As a result, T-34s have been used in combat recently and continue to be used to this day. Notable instances of the T-34 being used include wars in the former state of Yugoslavia, conflicts in Africa, and the Six-Day War, where Syrian T-34s duked it out with Israeli forces. Since the T-34 is the most destroyed tank in history, I was going to say it'd be a Revenant, because I thought Revenants were vengeful spirits. But I guess that's not really the case. I couldn't find any popular Russian folklore creatures matching that description, so I'll just say the T-34 is a vengeful spirit and leave it there. Next up is the M4 Sherman medium tank, the workhorse of the Western Allies during World War II. When World War II started kicking off, the US was kind of caught with its pants down, prompting them to get to work on a modern medium tank fast. The M3 Lee was created as a stopgap measure, but was quickly replaced by the M4. The M4 had a good balance of firepower, armor protection, and mobility, but also had a few other tricks up its sleeve. The Sherman was easier to transport, repair, and maintain, and also had a rudimentary stabilizer. The M4 was later upgraded with a 76mm cannon wet ammunition racks. It again formed the backbone of the US armored force in Korea, where it went up against its old ally, the T-34. This happened again in the Six-Day War, where upgraded Israeli Shermans fought the Syrian T-34s mentioned earlier. Unlike the T-34, which remained largely unchanged, the M4 saw a number of extensive upgrade programs. French Shermans were upgraded and then sold to Israel, who in turn upgraded them again, and later sold them to Chile. The Sherman likely last saw combat in the Lebanese Civil War, which ended in 1990. The last Shermans were officially retired from service in 2016. If the Sherman was a mythological creature, I'd say it'd have to be Frankenstein's monster, due to how much it was upgraded. Finally, there's the Panzer IV medium tank, which was operated by Nazi Germany from 1938 to 1945. The Panzer IV is supposed to be a sort of infantry support vehicle, taking out fortified targets with a short 75mm gun. Eventually, the Panzer IV was given a long 75mm gun, and pressed into anti-tank work, as the Panzer III could no longer do the job. The Panzer IV also saw armor upgrades, which continued to stress its running gear, though it was largely free of mechanical trouble beyond that. It was eventually superseded by the Panther, but continued to be produced for the entirety of the war. After World War II ended, Syria purchased some Panzer IVs from various European nations. Like the T-34 and Sherman, these Panzer IVs were later used in the Six-Day War, though due to the small number purchased, and their complete lack of upgrades, it's doubtful that many survived the fighting. I'd say the Panzer IV is most like a Western pop culture zombie, something brought back from the dead only to pretty much immediately die again. If you guys can think of any creatures that would fit these tanks better, or if you can come up with your own combination, leave it in the comments. I want to see what you guys come up with. As always, hope you guys enjoyed the video, and have a good Halloween.